my credit is horrible because you're punished for not using it. And so no landlord would touch me. And I was also afraid to rent because of the mold issue. And so I had to get creative and I ended up taking out a Bitcoin back loan through Strike, and I bought us a Winnebago to feel good about because it's not when a camper or an RV is going to leak. It's if. It's not if. It's when.
Yeah.
It was very nerve wracking, but Bitcoin gave me the options when the traditional system didn't have any for me.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Moon with the Lunas podcast. Today's Bitcoin price is 67,100. Today, we are honored to have Lindy McGee, who is the author of Bitcoin, A Treasure to Hodl, a rhyming picture book that introduces children and their families to the principles of sound money. A homeschooling mother and independent advocate living on a Bitcoin standard, she brings a deeply personal perspective to the cultural shift Bitcoin enables. What no macro chart can, a glimpse of how Bitcoin changes everyday lives, not just portfolios. Through her work and her story, she's helping families break from fiat thinking and planting seeds of financial freedom that will grow for generations. Thank you so much for being here, Lindy.
Thank you for having me.
We're so excited. Yeah, so if you want to feel free to tell our listeners about where you're from and just a little bit backstory about you, and then, yeah, we'll go from there.
Okay, I am currently in Southwest Mississippi, which is where I'm from. I grew up overseas in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. My dad worked offshore. Um, Upper middle class upbringing, amazing childhood. I was married to my husband for 25 years, lost him in August of 2024, and I have two amazing kids, one 25 and one just turned 17.
Oh my
Nice. Oh
gosh.
my gosh. I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
And 25 years, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. Like
Mhm.
we're always pumped to hear that because you just don't hear that longevity anymore when it comes to marriages. It's almost like a unicorn. And so we love that. And I'm sorry for your loss. And if you don't mind sharing a little bit more on your story with your husband, because when I know we were talking about this offline, but before I heard Spaces earlier this week, I heard it's a little it's and bits and pieces of it, and the little parts were like super impactful and very relatable and resonate with a lot of people. So if you don't mind sharing that a little bit, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Sure, absolutely. I'm an open book. Chuck and I were married for 25 years. Proud of that. He treated me like a princess, handled
Nice.
all of our finances. He was a very successful entrepreneur, had several businesses, and he had cancer. And we did everything naturally. And he tried to talk to me about our finances, and I would not hear it because in my mind, it was like accepting that something might happen to him. In hindsight,
Mm-hmm.
that was really dumb. I mean, it just was really dumb. And,
Mm-hmm.
that was my bad. But when he passed away, I was faced with having to pick up a lot of pieces that I had never really handled. I've run my own businesses successfully over the years. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I've homeschooled both of my children. But I've always, not always, but I've done little side things and things like that. So I'm not inept. But as far as our
Mhm.
household and his complicated businesses, just absolutely clueless. And
Yeah.
so when he passed away, I had a lot of learning to do. And, I'm grateful for my son because he worked with his dad. And so he dove in and helped me. And I'm a quick learner, but
Yeah.
it's difficult when you're grieving. And it had been a rough couple years with him being sick.
Mm. Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
that is where my Bitcoin journey not necessarily begins, but it's definitely where it took off was being faced with what am I going to do?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that was just well, navigating a change, such a drastic change. I can understand why you're like, I don't want to even consider this conversation about me taking over your businesses or anything like that, because that means this new reality might happen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's just that would be a very hard thing to like pill to swallow. And then hard for your son also, who was working with him, and then having to also, who was also grieving and navigating that with you.
Mhm.
That's a big change for both of you to go through, and things that but thankfully you had each other to
Oh,
hopefully,
yeah.
go through that. It sounds
Yeah.
like your kids are close to you, which is
Yes.
awesome.
They're
Mm,
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
nice.
awesome. So you said that your Bitcoin story kind of jumped off from that point. Is there a little start in the behind that, the scenes on
Yes,
that?
and I love sharing this because I like people's reactions when I share it, but m my biggest financial regret in life is that I didn't listen to my son Bennett when he was 12 years old in 2012, and he came to his dad and I begging us to let him buy some Bitcoin on our behalf.
Oh
Oh
my
my
god.
god.
12 years old?
Yes, 12 years old.
Oh my gosh. So, like,
Those
where
homeschool
was, like
kids.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He is way ahead of his time. Oh
Yep.
my goodness, 12 years old. Like, so where did he get this idea? Was his
Yeah.
friends, YouTube?
Well, I homeschooled and he went to school through 6th grade. So it was about the first year of homeschool,
Okay.
and he always spent a lot of time on YouTube. I really encouraged him and my kids to just pursue their interests, like learn how to learn. And if you're interested in something, you have everything at your disposal, dig in and learn about it. So he did.
Mhm.
He was always been interested in tech,
Mhm.
and he learned about it online
Wow.
and studied it. He's a good
Oh my
researcher, and I feel like he has great discernment even then. But of course, we look at each other and like, absolutely not. You're 12, you don't know
yeah.
what you're talking about. And
Right.
but he continued to talk about it throughout the years, and he actually got his pilot's license before he even had his driver's license. And
Wow. Oh my
we bought a
goodness.
Mooney plane for him, and so I don't know what year it would have probably been, like 2020, 2020,
Okay. Okay.
2019, that he came back to us and he's like, "Dad, you should take a second out on the Mooney and
Yeah.
buy Bitcoin." So he
Oh
like had
my
a
god.
vision, and he really pitched it and we didn't listen. We just didn't listen.
Oh my goodness. And you're telling me, so you bought this plane called a Mooney for him, you're saying?
Yeah, a used Mooney. Yeah, it's a two-seater plane, small
Okay.
plane.
So let me gather this real quick. So he gets his pilot license before his driver's license. You buy him a plane, but you won't buy Bitcoin in
No.
2012. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Lindy.
Yeah.
So, okay, so fast forward, where are we at now? He asks you to sit down, buy Bitcoin. What happens from here?
Yeah.
So, I did listen to him. He continued to talk to me about it, and I'm sure Chuck too, but like pulled us aside from each other, I guess. And I actually did. I had a little side gig MLM, and
Okay.
I did buy some Bitcoin in 2021 through
Okay.
Coinbase
Okay.
and just let it sit there. I let it sit
Mm,
there, and I'd look at it when he'd bring it up or when I'd hear something about it. And so I have only ever bought Bitcoin. I'm proud to say that. Only ever
uh-huh.
bought Bitcoin. I haven't messed with any of the rest of
Nice.
it.
Nice.
And
Nice.
yeah, I mean, it just I did when I did initially invest, and not a terribly lot. I just had like a little play money side. I wish I would have put more in then. But
Yeah.
I did get Bennett to explain it to me, and I did a little reading on it as well. Not a lot, but enough that I felt comfortable putting some money there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, just when Chuck did pass away, I knew that that he had life insurance. Like I said, it had been a rough couple years, and we really had to dig into our reserves trying to heal him.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
so I just felt a huge, of course, responsibility and a sense of urgency to do something smart with that money. I didn't
Mhm.
know a lot about Bitcoin, but I knew that dollars are just, the money, I knew money printer and um inflation. And so I'm like, what do I do? The stock market scared me.
Mhm.
And, gold, I didn't feel great about it. I just kept thinking Bitcoin, I
Mm.
felt almost just like convicted over Bitcoin without having done the work. And
Yeah.
so
Okay.
I'm a Christian, I'm a believer. And when I feel that like instinct, I know it to be the Holy Spirit. And so
Yeah.
Okay.
I set out to confirm and validate the feeling
Mm.
I had.
Yes.
Nice.
So I think it's probably the opposite for a lot of people. But
Mhm.
for me, it was let me make sure that I want to be discerning. So I
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
do the work. And so I just buckled down and I read and I consumed everything I could. And that included like seeking out things that were against Bitcoin. I wanted to hear it all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And just the more I read, the more I listened to, I'm like, this is it. This is what I need to do with this life
Yeah.
insurance money.
Nice.
Mm.
Dude, that's
Wow.
great. Like, that's great. Having that conviction, having the spirit, and just having, just and pulling the trigger, right? That's another big thing too. Is like, I think when some people are like, they first get introduced to Bitcoin or they're first doing their research and they're going down the rabbit hole, it's still like, oh my God, am I really going to do this Bitcoin thing?
Yeah.
And so pulling the trigger is kudos to you for doing that. Man,
Yeah.
that's an amazing
It
story.
is amazing. Yeah.
So and then you mentioned earlier, like you said, Bitcoin changes lives, not just portfolios. Like, what's a real example of that in your own life, if you can share?
Um, a strike Bitcoin back loan.
Okay.
Um, I I had chronic uveitis in my eye
Mhm.
last spring. No, this spring. It was this spring. And I am probably the healthiest eater that I know and
Mhm.
am very aware of environmental toxins. And so when the eye doctor told me, if you can't come off of steroid drops, there's probably some kind of autoimmune. I was like, oh no, no.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't come off the steroid drops without it flaring. So I went straight to a functional practitioner to find out
Mhm.
root cause. She did lab work and my TGF beta 1 was through the roof. And she said, this is one of three things. And one of those was mold. And so we
Mm.
Wow.
tested my house,
Mhm.
which is my really only asset.
Okay.
Um, and there was an HVAC disaster. We had replaced we have zones in our house. We had replaced one of the units several
Mhm.
years prior, and they did a shoddy job. And so the entire ductwork in that unit was just dumping mycotoxins
Oh
into
my
the rooms
goodness.
that it aired. So, and one of those was the den where my husband spent the last year and a half, like pretty
Oh
Oh
much
my
my
God.
most of
Please.
goodness.
the time.
Oh my goodness, Lindy.
Oh my gosh.
So,
That
in
is
my daughter's room, it was the den and my daughter's room and a theater room in our home. And so I tested her. She had the highest like brain inflammation numbers that my functional practitioner has ever seen.
Oh my gosh.
I thought that she was probably like depressed. She lost her dad and because she was sleeping a lot and it was the mold.
oh my goodness.
So, um have navigated a lot and now I'm faced with um medical expenses and we haven't stepped foot in our home since August.
Wow.
And I don't earn an income and my credit is horrible because you're punished for not using it.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so no landlord would touch me. And I was also afraid to rent because of the mold issue. We're super
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so I had to get creative and I ended up taking out a Bitcoin back loan through Strike and
Mhm.
I bought us a Winnebago. And
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Um, you know, I bought a new Winnebago. I researched, discovered Winnebago, the way they do their roof, feel good
Mhm.
about because it's not when a camper or an RV is gonna leak, it's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was very nerve-wracking, but, Bitcoin gave me the options when the traditional system didn't have any for me,
Mm.
Mhm.
and
Wow.
that's not a portfolio story, that's a roof over mine and my daughter's head.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I can't believe that. So I want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. So you haven't been in your only asset you have since August of last year.
We both packed our vehicle up, and I underestimated just how sick it was making us. We're, like, driving an hour it's 3 hours there and back to my functional practitioner, doing, IVC, glutathione shots, NAD, B12, things that we
Uh,
have to go to her clinic to do once or twice a
Mhm.
week, and, we're going back to the house, and she's like, "Lindy, you're never gonna get well unless you get out of the house."
Wow.
yeah.
And I have a dear friend who opened her home to us, and it's not just me and my daughter, but also our 3 dogs. Caitlin has
Yeah.
2 long-haired dachshunds. I have a mutt named Ivanka because a mutt needs a fancy name. Uh, but she opened her home to us, and I needed to go back in and get some things, and I wore a hazmat suit, uh, um, a ventilator, is that what it's called? And eye goggles that sealed around my eyes, and within
Mhm.
24 hours, my eye flared. I think I was in there for about 15 minutes.
Oh
Wow.
my goodness. Oh my
And so,
gosh.
like, everything in my home that's porous, like furniture, like a sofa or a rug or clothes or books. I'm a reader. I have, like, the most amazing collection of books. That stuff's a loss.
Oh my
I
goodness.
wouldn't
And
I mean,
what
Wow.
they say you can remediate things, and certainly you can some, but with our sensitivity, it's not worth even trying.
Oh,
And then,
yeah. Oh my
Kaylin has, a huge collection of Squishmallows. Yes, she's 17, but her dad bought every one of those for her. Like, they all have a
oh
name and a memory attached to them.
wow.
I'm
Oh my
so
So
sorry.
goodness. So
It's kind
and then
of like go ahead.
just that there's perspective and that things could be a lot worse. Like, I'm grateful that we know, but it has been a huge burden. And it's been tough. It has.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said it wasn't.
yeah.
Well, because the one thing that you would like to sell, you can't even
Oh,
do anything.
yes.
I
Exactly,
mean,
and that's the whole plan is when Chuck passed away, Palin wanted nothing more than to sell that house. First of all, it's far too big. I'm paying a mortgage on it, and I can't go into it, and we
mhm,
wanna sell it and downsize and move,
mhm.
and we
Wow. So
can't.
how is this moving forward like legally with like the maybe the HVAC people or
I
what's going
have an attorney, and he is working on you know, legal we're working to hold him accountable. And of course, that process is just really slow. I have a lawyer and I just spend a lot of time praying for justice because I mean, it was egregious. Not only did there was the install, but my husband, like, you
yeah.
pay professionals to do professional things. I don't know anything about HVAC. Chuck didn't either. He was more entrepreneurial, not like super handy. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
so even paid for us to have, a contract with them. So they've been out to the house at least twice a year to
Oh my.
oversee everything. And,
Oh
like,
my.
when I went into the attic to look for the first time, like, it was glaring, and my son went in with the respirator mask and a hazmat suit to get video footage of it, and, I was appalled at his language, but I also felt it very strongly because
Yeah.
when he saw it, he just couldn't believe how egregious.
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
my gosh, Lindy.
And isn't that, Lindy, if you don't mind sharing, like, isn't that's a pricey job too, right?
Oh my god, yeah, the unit itself was 30,000 and then the
Oh my
ductwork, I don't Like, I've gone back and looked at what I could through, like, the checkbook, but
Mhm.
at least 10, maybe more.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Oh my and so how many times did they come out and watch it? Because I know you said 2 to twice a year, so how many
Twice a
years?
year, and when was the install? I think it was in 20. I wanna look look because I wanna be able to tell you, and I've got it.
Yeah.
I really am my memory and just, like, legit brain fog. They installed it in July of 2022.
Wow. So it was in there for 2 years just developing while and then your husband was in there too.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah,
Oh my goodness. And your
That's like
daughter
and
too
your
as well.
daughter. But
yeah,
your poor I mean, you're doing all these holistic things for your husband to get well,
Yeah.
exactly. I
and
mean,
he's
that is haunting when we all, my kids and I, it didn't take long for us to immediately go there,
yeah.
that he was
Yeah.
there, and certainly I'm not mold didn't kill him, he had cancer, but uh, and just, like, he'd never suffered anxiety in his life, and that is a very common thing with mold, and that was brutal to watch him, be suffering with cancer, and then all of a sudden to be dealing with anxiety on top of that, and just other things as well. I'll never not question what kind of negative impact that had on his healing.
Oh
Oh,
my
yeah.
goodness.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
I know, and it's so hard. You don't wanna go there because it's like, what are we gonna do right now, right? But it's like, also, gosh, I don't know. I would be mad and sad and angry and frustrated and all the things that you're probably have been feeling for the past 2
A
years.
lot.
Oh my
Yeah.
Gosh, well,
and go ahead.
goodness, I was just
I'm just
just to
a
kinda
pleasure to talk to, aren't I? I said, "I'm just a pleasure to talk to, aren't I?" This story
You
is just such a drag.
Oh my
No, but I
god.
feel like it's such a I mean, you've navigated so much and not knowing a lot of how to do this, like figure out your finances and, not figure out your husband's job, his businesses. And thankfully you have your kids, they're like obviously very
God.
intelligent people who are trying to help you and figure things out as well. But yeah, it's just a lot, and you persevered through so much change in a short amount of time. My goodness, I admire you for
Yeah,
sure.
you're a woman of strength for sure.
Yeah.
Their kids have an awesome mom. You just navigating that and then them just being in their corner because I know they're looking towards you and like how
Mhm.
you're gonna react and how you're going to pivot because this is huge. Like this is, your husband and then the legalities issues with the home and then not living in your home and then, I don't know. There's so much to gather and you're just doing a great job. You're doing a great job, Lindy. And then out of all this, we're like, you write a children's book,
Yeah.
and out of all things, Bitcoin children's book, which is incredible.
Yes.
So I want to also just to pivot a little bit as well too. I know you mentioned the Bitcoin back loan, right?
Yeah.
And I know this is coming up a lot right now, and this is going to be the future. I also believe in as well. So if you don't mind sharing, like how did this work as well? Because we also had a dip too, right? Since it
Yeah.
sounds like from when you took it out. So did we get margin call? What, or did you get an email, phone call? Like, walk us through this.
So when I initially, got life insurance, I was completely sold out on Bitcoin and I know that it's volatile. So I put everything in with the exception of about a year and a half worth of living expenses.
Mhm.
Okay.
What I
Okay.
calculated to be that. Well, what I didn't know is I had some huge IRS checks to write that I wasn't counting on. So I ended up running out of fiat much earlier than what
Okay.
I wanted to. So I've been living on a Bitcoin standard for a year now, more than a year. And Strike's bill pay allows me to do that.
Hmm.
My mortgage, electric, phone, internet, it's all converted the moment of payment.
Hmm.
And I mean, I do have a traditional bank account should I need to write a check for something, but I barely touch it. And I'm
Yeah.
annoyed when I have to.
Yeah.
But and like when I need groceries or diesel for this,
Mhm.
I use a Coinbase debit card. I'm not a
Oh,
fan of Coinbase, but I do appreciate that debit card. It works well for
Mhm.
me, converts
nice,
the sats
nice.
right away.
Yeah.
And then the loan, for the record, and I will say this all day long, I
Mhm.
would have never in a million years leveraged my Bitcoin if not for faced with the catastrophe
Yeah.
Okay.
that I was faced with. It's not something I would do.
Mhm.
Chuck and I were very Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
We don't have credit cards. We, live within our means.
Mhm.
And so that was really hard. I lost sleep over it, stomach in knots because you just don't know. You don't know
Yeah.
Yeah.
what's happening. And, I looked at buying a used RV, but I couldn't make peace with it because you don't know about leaks. I mean, I am like petrified of mold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
just
Yes.
am.
yeah.
Oh.
And I wanted something that had a warranty. I wanted to buy it from a reputable dealer so that things would be taken care of. And so that meant a lot of money, more than what I would have ever wanted to spend, but
Mhm.
it's what felt like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So the Bitcoin back loan, I over collateralized it from the beginning.
Okay.
And I thought in my mind, certainly Bitcoin will never go like below 60. Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm praying. And
Yeah.
so my daughter and I are out west
Oh,
traveling for the first time while we're in here because if we're not traveling, then we're tethered to the mold house, hooked
Yeah.
up to
yeah.
shore
Yeah.
power on the mold house. And that is miserable. It is like depressing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, a house that you can't go into.
Oh my gosh.
And that we were in Zion National Park, and my phone is just alert, 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 that I'm getting close to a margin call, and so I had to beef up my collateral. And
Mhm.
I'm sweating it because when it starts dipping, you don't know, like, how low is
Yeah.
it gonna go? And I'm
Yeah.
looking I'm looking at what I have in cold storage and, it's stressful, and I don't like, if you're going to leverage your Bitcoin, just know going in that it's volatile, and I knew
Mhm.
that going in.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I am okay, but I am stressed. I am
Yeah.
because especially with this war that's going on,
Mhm.
um, and to Jack Mallers, who is probably my one of my very favorite voices in Bitcoin. I do not miss his show on Mondays. I
Mhm.
can show you my phone where I have a 5 o'clock alarm on Mondays because I'm a very political person. Um, I have a nonprofit here in Mississippi and have fought for medical freedom for well over a decade. And it is so refreshing to hear his perspective. He's like
Mhm.
31 or so. He
Yeah,
reminds me
he's
of my
young.
son. And to hear his perspective that is completely non political and more macro minded, that is
Yeah.
not something I've ever been interested in. But he is such a dynamic in the
Mhm.
way he puts everything together that I actually enjoy. And I feel like I need to be responsible and listen to this sort of thing and
Yeah.
know what's going on. And I want
Mhm.
to.
Yeah.
But,
Mhm.
when we did have that dip, they changed some things to the loan to value, the LTV,
Mhm.
um, gave a little leniency there and where you did have like 24 hours, now it's 48 hours. Um, just very, very customer minded. I'm
Yeah.
grateful for that.
Yeah.
But the Bitcoin back loan saved me. I'm
Yeah.
so grateful that it was an option. I mean,
Yeah.
but
I
I
know.
need I need for us to not to get political, but I need for us to come right on home from Iran and
Okay.
let's let's turn things around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
like, the war is just bad overall. So, yeah, I hear where you're coming from. We just gotta end all of that,
Yeah.
as soon as possible and get things right and focus on us.
I had just heard that you could take a loan for Bitcoin, right? So like I had just when you were sharing that on Spaces, didn't know that that was even an option. So
Mhm.
for that to be even an option, gosh, like you said, it wasn't your first choice, it
Yeah.
wasn't your
Yeah.
second choice, it wasn't probably your third choice, but it was the choice that you had to make in the season that you were in, and thank goodness you could,
Mhm.
that you were able to, cuz I mean, like you said, God only knows. I mean, thankfully you have community, but that could only go so far sometimes when you're
Right.
trying to be independent and not really burden yourself on another
Exactly.
family and all those
Well, and
things,
this is
right?
long term. I mean, when you get involved in a lawsuit, I don't know how long we'll be in here. Um, you know,
Right.
I know my
Yeah.
daughter is on her knees praying that it's not long because what 17-year-old wants to be trapped within 25 feet of 6 with their mom, you know?
I don't know. You're pretty cool, Lindy. I don't know.
I am, and we have an excellent relationship, but I mean, this has caused it to suffer. I mean, just
Yeah.
because I remember when we were in the big moldy house, she
Mhm.
would come bust up in my bedroom and sit on the end of my bed and keep me up just talking and catching up. And there's no opportunity for that. I mean, we are
Yeah.
always on top of each other.
Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah, you need to miss each other a little bit.
yeah,
It's that, like, feeling of, like, "Oh, you had your moment.
exactly.
Okay, I miss you now. I wanna talk with you and have a moment with you."
Yeah.
I can understand that. So what kind of inspired you to start writing this awesome book? What was it that was like,
A
"Oh, I wanna
children's
write a
book
book."
too.
Yeah, and a children's book.
Yeah. Well, it was New Year's night, and it was months after losing Chuck, and I feel like I did really well with that. When someone's sick and suffering, and you pray for their healing, when they pass away, it like dawned on me. I prayed for his healing, and he's healed,
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so, for some reason, New Year's night, which is it kind of tickles me thinking about it because he would have been in bed at midnight. Unless we had something to do when we were younger, we'd stay up, but he would have been in bed, and I just was especially missing him, and I sat down at my kitchen table, and I don't know where it came from, I don't know why, but I just started writing out rhymes, and of course, this is on the heels of me, like, 24/7 Bitcoin, so I am, like, one-tracked mind for sure.
Yeah.
I'd always wanted to write a children's book. It was like the unspoken bucket list. Chuck knew about it because we had talked about some ideas that I had just over the years, but I never did anything with it.
Yeah.
Um, and Holy Spirit prompted. I don't know. I
Yeah.
looked up and it was 3 a.m. and I had the majority of the book that you guys have, rough drafted out.
Oh,
And while I'm writing it, I'm thinking, because like I said, I'm on the heels of learning all this. I
yeah.
Mhm.
remember thinking when I was learning, I'm like, I wish someone would explain this to me like I'm 5 because it
Yes.
is so overwhelming when you're thrown with stuff and the freaking acronyms and financial terms.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
what the heck does this mean? What does this mean? So the glossary was like a no-brainer. I would have
Oh
Yes.
my
anything to have had my little simple 3 spread glossary when I first started learning. So, I'm thinking I read to my kids. I love children's books and loved reading to them, so I wanted it to be something that a small child would enjoy to introduce
Mhm.
them to as
yeah.
a primer, but I also had in my mind, I need for the parents to take an interest.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
So, those were my goals. I
Yeah.
wanted the next generation to understand money before the system takes advantage of them the way it had their parents,
Yeah.
while also hopefully piquing the interest of the parents that are reading it to them.
Oh,
So
yeah.
good. I work in the classroom. Now I work for a charter school to help families who are homeschooling. So I'm kind of like a teacher of record. And then I'm also I'm homeschooling our own kids too.
Mhm.
And so when Anthony, I was like, this is the book I needed when when he first started talking about this
That's
because
the best compliment.
I was like, I didn't what is this? Because he would talk about all these terms, right? And then as soon as I finished the book, one, the rhyming is so good for the kids. It's great literacy practice, right? Um, but then after we were done, I was just sitting there and I'm like, oh, that's what it means. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, this could have been really helpful earlier on,
Right?
when I'm going through. And there's some things that we had talked about, but, I hadn't really totally
So good.
understood it. So,
I just remember hearing people talk about FUD, and I'm like, "What the heck is FUD?" Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You know,
Yes.
see?
but you don't wanna feel dumb when you're listening to a podcast and, so many people that go on, it's just second nature to them, but for the
Yeah.
people that are learning, that kinda stuff just makes you feel it made me feel dumb. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
looking up, "What does this mean? What does this mean?" I'm like, "Oh, I probably should have known that, but I didn't, and I know I'm not the
Yeah.
only one like that."
Oh, no, you're not the only one,
Nope.
and, like, I still do it now when I read books too, like, if there's, like, a word or a person in there, like, I'm like, "Oh," like, I'll stop and I'll just look it up,
Yeah.
That's
and then,
true.
I don't know, I just do that all the time. I think it's healthy for you, and you're always
Oh, yeah.
growing and you're learning.
Yeah.
So with this book, like, what kind of feedback have you got from parents on this so far?
The best. I mean, okay, so I mentioned earlier that I had a nonprofit here in Mississippi, Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights, and over the past decade have developed a huge following of medical freedom minded people, not only in Mississippi but across the U.S. So when I was working on the book, I knew that I would do a pre-order, so I had a very vague, I'm up to something. It's lindymcgee.com. So it just
Yeah.
had like a one page that said, I'm up to something, be the first to know. And I just shared that, repetitively on Facebook, which is where I have the biggest following of my medical freedom minded people. And so I got a lot of email addresses, and I'm thinking, when they find out that it's a Bitcoin book, are they going to be disappointed? Or
Right.
no, no, those people came through and ordered and didn't know anything about Bitcoin, but they are supportive of me and they trust that I'm a researcher. And so from those people, those are what's the most exciting because they don't know anything about Bitcoin. And so the feedback from them, some of them just ordered it to support. And so they don't even have kids and
Yeah.
they're reading it and, leaving reviews on the site or reaching out to me personally that, I didn't know anything about this, but now I feel like I kind of do. And, what do I need to look at next?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So people have gotten off zero because of my little book.
It's so
And
good.
there's just no better feedback than that. There
Oh
isn't.
my gosh.
That's great, and I love how, like, everybody orange pills differently, and
Mhm.
so, like, I love how you're orange pilling people through a children's book. Like, that's what an angle
It's a
to come
That's
in.
right. It's a Trojan horse. If you
Yes.
have a niece and a nephew and your brother or brother-in-law won't listen to you when you're trying to have the conversation, you buy the book for the niece or the nephew, and the
Nice.
brother-in-law and sister read it, and they don't have a choice, or, "No, we're not
Yeah.
reading the book," you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No,
so
that's so
they get just a little taste, just a little primer,
Oh
yeah.
my
and,
gosh. This
you
is
you plant the seed, the rest is up to them.
yeah.
Yes, yes, and I also wanted to add, because I know you mentioned earlier, and this is just for our listeners and also, like, for Danielle, she's learning through this whole
Yep.
process still, Lindy, and so, I love that she's, jumped on board, and she gets to talk to people like you,
Yeah.
and so I know you
And
mentioned
I get to
earlier.
read books like this that really help me like
Yes.
dumb it down a little, and I hate saying that, but it's like it's
No, it's
true. I
true.
needed
And
yeah,
unless you can explain something on a level where a kid can understand it, do you
Yeah,
even really understand it yourself?
exactly,
exactly.
You
I
exactly,
gotta be able
agree.
to just break it down simply. And
Yeah.
ex
certainly that little book is not, everything, but
You're
it's
right.
it's a great springboard, I feel like.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely. And then when you're looking at the glossary, you can read these adult books
Mhm. Yeah.
and use that as a reference and go, "Oh, that's what we're talking about."
And my
no, that's
Yeah.
true.
favorite might be like as an adult, the did you know section, because that's like Bitcoin culture that you're
Yes.
going to
Mhm,
hear about
mhm,
and to already kind of have a foundation of some of those key points. I
Yeah.
think just makes you feel a little more like an insider.
Uh-huh. I love that. It's just so good. It's so
yeah,
good.
it's
Thank
so
you.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to backtrack a little bit, I know you mentioned, like, you're living on a Bitcoin standard, and I know how you kinda use Strike. So if you don't mind sharing, like, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? Like, what does that look like for people who are like, "Oh, the Bitcoin standard, and how do I live on that?" Like, if you don't mind kinda digging deep into that a little bit more too.
Yeah, so what I know about is Strike's bill pay, and
Okay.
it came out right when I was like running low on fiat, and I'm like, crap, what am I gonna do? I'm about to have to just sell my Bitcoin and move it into my checking account. And no, right in the nick of time, I hear Jack talking about it on his, Jack Mallard show on Mondays.
Okay.
And so I look into it and it is a Strike platform. I
Mhm.
Every month I move over the amount that I need to pay my monthly bills. Any bills
Okay.
that you would like have set up on a draft. and I have, a routing number and an account number within Stripe,
Mhm.
and so I have
Okay.
it set out. So it just drafts my mortgage, my
Mhm.
Verizon, my Starlink, um, electric bill because I still have an electric bill in my freaking house that I can't go into.
Oh my
All of
good.
that just converts right at the moment of payment.
Nice.
And then I move over expenses for, like, groceries and fuel,
Okay.
little things like that, what I might spend on Amazon, those things I use a Coinbase debit card for,
Okay.
and
Okay.
that drafts out. So I use Bitkey, um,
Mhm.
as for my self-custody. That was
Yep.
another thing, like, that was probably the hardest and most frightening barrier to entry into Bitcoin for me
Mhm.
was cold
Mhm.
storage because I knew I mean, I was buying a significant amount to me,
Yeah.
and, I knew that I had to self-custody, and that was really scary for me, but Bitkey completely alleviated any of my
Nice.
concerns, and I've been really happy with it. And I don't mention any kind of business in my book at all, but Bitkey
Mhm.
got a shout out,
Nice.
um, just
Nice.
because it did. It was
Yeah.
just such a good thing for me. But yeah, I just move over what I need for the month and either the Coinbase debit card or Stripe's bill
Mhm.
pay. It
Nice.
converts that to right at the moment of spending.
Yeah.
So
What was the hardest part of like shifting your mindset then from like the fiat mindset to the Bitcoin mindset? Like what was like the hardest? Because, we're growing up in a system where, we're supposed to, like you said, you're Dave Ramsey. You guys all always had everything, in order and then trying to figure out a whole other system. What was kind of the hardest part of that?
Um, Initially, when I first went all in on Bitcoin, I I had concerns. I'm a private person for the most part. Like, I'm wide open on the internet to strangers, but like my people close to me, I was a little concerned about like people don't understand this. What are they going to think? They're going to think I'm being irresponsible. And
Mhm.
so I was quiet about that, and I try to like educate my mom as I'm learning things.
Mhm.
And she's a Bitcoiner now to herself, but she was
Nice.
very apprehensive in the beginning. So I probably may have led her to believe that I wasn't buying as much, just I didn't want her to worry about me.
Yeah.
Um, so early on, it wasn't hard. It just really wasn't. It felt like the right thing to do, and I'm grateful
Mhm.
for that. But going through these latest valleys,
Yeah.
struggles,
Yeah.
there has been some fear, especially, with margin call stress,
Mhm.
the dips and, my collateral on the line, that's very stressful. And so
Yeah.
that's hard. Um, I've been angry at my HVAC company
Yeah.
for putting me in that position, but I've never felt like, oh, I made a mistake
Mhm.
or regretted what I've done. No,
Right.
Yeah.
I did what I had
Yeah.
to do. But
You did everything right.
holding the idea that there's safety in holding something that loses its value every year, I think just feels familiar, and
Mhm.
unlearning that takes time
Yeah.
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
some people. So, um, that's fiat thinking.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that leads into my next question too. What are some ways people don't even realize that they're stuck in that fiat thinking?
Yeah.
You think?
I the this believing that their savings account is safe
Yeah.
Yeah.
when inflation eats what 7%
I
every
yeah,
year.
what we don't even know what it is. It's like the number is like,
Right.
oh, we don't even know we
They
know it's
paint
not.
that with a pretty
Yeah.
brush to make it, and then people thinking that, a house is their best investment when really
Yeah.
the dollar's just losing value and making the house
Yeah.
look like it's growing, that investment's growing. And,
Yeah.
the idea that debt is normal and that you
Mhm.
should
Yeah.
have a credit card, um,
Yeah.
like I said, my credit's terrible, And it's
Yep.
not because I'm irresponsible, but because I don't use credit, and the
Right.
Yeah.
system punishes you for not playing their game.
Yep,
Yep.
exactly. And there's like I always think it's funny, like you like let's just say you get like a credit card and you pay it off. And then like they knock you for paying off your card and
Yeah.
Right.
closing your account. It's like, no, this is a great person. We should actually attack them more because they know what they're doing. They're not going into debt. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
total like everything is so opposite of like the right way, but we're so immersed in this lifestyle and this living
It's
and
familiar, like she
indoctrinated with
yeah.
school. It's like, oh my goodness, we're like people just have to like you have to wake up. And that's the whole part of like doing this podcast, like just helping people just like be aware, right? And just
Yeah.
think, maybe open up a book, the Bitcoin, A Treasure to Hodl, any book, hop on a podcast,
Yeah.
Jack Mahler's or anyone, like
Yeah.
just do something, do your own research, don't trust, verify
Yeah.
everything. And and if you're listening to this podcast right now, like don't trust anything that we're saying, like go
Yeah.
verify it for
That's right.
yourself, right? Because you might not agree with anything that we're saying, but like go and verify for yourself
Mhm.
and do the work.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
something that held me back too, and I'm sure as a mom, you get so invested in your kids, you're homeschooling, right? You start getting, and one thing that I've tried to make more of a priority of is there's audible things that we can listen to while we're doing
Oh,
other things, you know? So it's like I try to remind myself that because sometimes I do search for like quiet, like, it's just crazy
yeah.
chaos sometimes and then but I'm like, "You know what? I could really use this time while I'm doing the dishes. I could just be listening to something right now."
Yes.
That's like
Never fold
moving.
clothes without learning something.
Yes. That's such a good yes, exact I'm gonna take that now. I'm gonna be
Mhm.
listening to something,
Yeah.
while I'm doing things because, yeah, those mundane tasks, even
Right.
though we, like, think we don't have time, we have time to do, multiple things. I think moms, we're the best multitaskers if I could ever put someone on that,
Yeah.
Yeah,
award.
for
Um,
sure.
Lindy,
yeah.
so when talking about like planting seeds for the next generation, what does real financial freedom look like for your kids?
Yeah.
Um, I I'm, like, so convicted over speaking out for our kids. We have reached into their future and stolen from them without their consent.
Mhm. Mhm.
You see so many boomers, like, paint our kids with just this broad brush of they're not working hard enough, or there's no amount of work they can do and
Yeah.
have the same
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
recently I had a true patriot comment on a post of mine on Facebook talking about, something about his social security. And I'm thinking, well, enjoy it because my kid's not going to have any. I
Mhm.
want my kids to grow up and understand that 21 million means 21 million,
Yeah.
Yes.
and that no one can dilute their savings while they sleep. Um,
Mhm.
there's an exit door from our system designed to keep them dependent,
Mhm.
and the ticket gets more expensive every day.
Yeah.
So, I wrote the book and I share about Bitcoin, and I share the book so that kids can start understanding before the system takes advantage of them, or hopefully,
Mhm.
Mhm.
they have an
Mhm.
opportunity.
Yeah. What do your what so I know your son introduced it to you at 12 years old, then came back to you at 2019, 2020. Where are they at right now with Bitcoin? Like where's their mindset at right now with it?
I am certain that Bennett has probably spent generational wealth on PlayStations and camera equipment in his teenage years. Um, and he has some Bitcoin, but certainly not the Bitcoin that he would have bought when
Mm.
he, should have held it. But he's a
Mhm.
teenager. He was a
Yeah.
kid, and
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
it allowed him to play and have a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
Palin is the most supportive cheerleader for my book, and, puts up with I ship everything right now for the time being. I have a 3PL in New Jersey, and I'm about to have to transfer because it's getting to be more than I can handle. But for
Mhm.
the time being, and while I was doing pre-orders, dealt with there being stacks of books and bubble wrappers and the Halo printer printing out. I mean, it was just a wreck all the time, and it sometimes gets that way. She is super
Yes.
supportive. When Jack Mallers comes on Monday, she's like, "Oh my gosh, mom, can you please put earbuds in?" she's she's over that. It's not, she she has to listen because we're in tight quarters, but it's not.
Yeah.
She's not super interested. But it's kind of been crammed down her throat. And
Yeah.
well, she'll take it. She has a foundation,
Yeah.
and when she wants to take an interest in it, she will. But in the
Nice.
Yeah.
meantime, she has some Bitcoin too. So
Nice.
Nice.
That's
I
so
help
good.
her with making sure that some of her savings goes in that direction.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's
Good.
good. I have appreciated learning about Bitcoin because I feel like it also, even though it's totally different than the fiat system, it helps my secure and more, what's the word I'm looking for? Um Conservative way of handling money, right? Of like making sure that I'm doing it appropriately and how it should be done and moving our family forward in a way that I want it to. And so
Right.
Bitcoin opened my eyes that, oh, our money can grow. Our money,
Mhm.
can it's not going to go into a system that's going to just keep taking away from us. And so
Right.
I hope that makes sense, but it helped
Well,
me
just
understand it a little bit more.
long-term thinking. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Long-term thinking.
Yeah.
Low time preference.
Yeah.
Low time preference. And that's
Mhm.
Um,
another thing of what a huge blessing it's been for me because it did allow me to stay home and pour into my daughter after being
Mhm.
so, distracted as a caregiver, and I am eternally grateful for that.
if a parent is listening right now, feels overwhelmed by money, like what's one simple step they can take when it comes to Bitcoin or
Um, get off 0
yes.
by $20, and not because $20 is gonna change your life, it's not. But it gives you skin in the game to where you're paying
Mhm,
attention, and then you
mhm.
start learning. It's nobody's gonna die over $20.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
get off 0, get you $20, and start learning. A book
Mhm.
a book is a great place,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
and there's so much more. My very first book I ever read was, A Bullish Case for Bitcoin by VJ Boyapati. It was suggested to me
Oh,
by
I don't
someone I knew, and it's,
okay.
like, old school. The foreword in it is written by Saylor. It's
Okay.
really thin. It's because, Lynn Alden's book and, The Big Print, those are amazing. I've read both of them as well. But
Mhm.
for a newbie, don't they're if
Yeah,
you're not at all convicted over it, that's a heavy heave. Here's
it
this
is.
Yeah.
dense book, read it. So I still suggest that book to people. Coin Stories, Natalie Brunell.
So good.
That's a great place. She does a really good job of even getting her she had Checkmate on recently, James Check, who I love
Mhm.
following his
Yep.
analysis because it's
Mhm.
not about, Bitcoin go high or anything. It's like true analysis, and I think he's
Mhm.
Mhm.
brilliant. But she has such a gift for breaking things down and having her guests break it
Yeah.
down. 'Cause
Yes.
it does I know it gets easy when you're really knowledgeable about something to talk over the heads of people.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
Mhm.
there's so much out there, there really is, and it can be overwhelming or too much. So, yeah, just start simple, get skin in the game so that you have an interest and start be curious. That's what,
Yeah.
I my kids, be curious.
Yeah, that's such a good and it's a good mindset to have in anything that you're doing. Be
For sure,
curious,
yeah. Mhm.
just be curious of other people, be curious about what you're doing. I just think that's awesome. So good. So good. So, I guess to close, if your kids were to hear this 20 years from now, what's one message you would want them to carry with them?
Um, well, I mean, they've seen it, but I want them to see that I did the work.
Yeah.
Um, I did it scared, I did it sloppy, but, I did it for them.
Yeah.
Everything that we all went through together, losing their dad, the mold, living in an RV,
Oh my God.
the margin calls, the late nights of getting books ready to ship out of this
Oh
little
my
tiny space.
God.
Wow.
Um, you
Oh
know, it's it's also that hopefully they'll have options that I didn't have,
Yeah.
and that I hope that they're looking at everything from a position of financial freedom. Freedom,
Mm.
overall freedom, but financial freedom as well. And that
Yeah.
oh
they're
my
teaching it to their own kids because they better have.
yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is you're an amazing person, Lindy. Like everything that you've overcome and that you're still like persevering and that you're still going through is just like so many people would fold. So many people would just like whine or cry or just like you're
Oh,
just
well,
still pushing
now
through.
I've done some of that too.
Yeah.
I just try to keep that for
Yeah.
myself.
Oh
I
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm human, but
Yeah.
you just do what you have to do.
Yeah.
You do what
Yes.
you have to do.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
And, I am so grateful
Hmm.
for, the Lord and my faith in him to believe that, this is just like refiner's fire. Like,
Yes.
get me out of it sooner than later, please. I'm
Yeah.
weary.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bitcoin has been a true gift to us
Yeah.
Man, that's
in a
amazing.
lot of ways.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Well,
gosh.
I am just so grateful. I can't wait to re-listen to this. I love re-listening to the people that we have on our
Mm,
podcast because it's like you're absorbing information as you're here, but then you get to hear it again and you just get reminded of just, oh my gosh, like people's stories,
yeah.
And yeah, like Anthony said, we're just so grateful that you took the time and you're navigating so much right now. And we're just super grateful
Yeah.
for you.
We
Well,
will
I
definitely be keeping
appreciate
you in our prayers. I know
it.
it's only April, so do we give you Mom of the Year award now, or do we wait till the end of the year?
No, no awards, no awards. There are so many people who have to endure a lot harder than
Yeah.
what I have, and I do have that perspective.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
do.
You're amazing.
Everybody's dealing with something.
Yeah, I'm just,
I
I'm
know we're
still at
like
awe.
speechless. We just
I'm
like
at
don't even know
awe.
what to
Like,
say.
you're just amazing. You're just like a woman of strength. You're an earth angel. Like,
I
I just
know.
can't like fathom, we are all going through stuff that
Yeah.
absolutely we're all battling our own battles.
For sure.
Um, and I know God's with you through all of this, and we will definitely be keeping you in our prayers for
Yeah.
I'm
sure.
grateful for the prayers. I am. And the book too. If anyone wants the book, lindymcgee.com, because it is an avenue for me to earn an income.
Yes.
Yes.
That's not what I set out with it, but
Mhm.
once I saw that I had something and I had some mentors tell me this is legit, my intention was to put it on like Amazon, print on demand,
Mhm.
and they're like, no, you can't do that. You need to do an offset print and create an imprint publisher and go
Nice.
all out. And so I did. And so I have a lot, have a lot of Bitcoin invested in bringing this book to life. And I want to get it out there. And if I can earn a little income at the same time, then that is just all the
Absolutely.
better.
Yes. If
Absolutely.
you're
So
listening to this, go get the book. Go
Yes.
get the book. If you're
It's
listening to
super
this,
helpful
go
for
support
adults
her.
and children. We love
Yes.
this. We read it the other day and the kids
They love it.
also the illustrator
isn't
Right in
was
the
he,
it
front right here.
Kenny, isn't he brilliant?
Yeah.
Love it.
they were so cute. The kids were like, I love how he like colors their clothes but not their faces and
Yeah.
like it was just
Yeah.
super cute. Like we were just talking about the illustrations because we were just going through it, but there is so much good in this. You want to look at
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. One more time. Lindy, tell them where they can find your book at.
LindyMcGee.com. LindyMagee.com.
Awesome. And where can they find you on platforms?
I'm on X at Lindy McGee, and then I'm Lindy Hughes McGee on Facebook, and I think that's what I am on Instagram as well. I don't
Okay.
spend as
Perfect.
much time on Instagram since they changed it to all reels. I liked when it was still photos because I'm
Yeah.
old.
All right. Well, thank you so much for carving out the time. We really enjoyed this conversation. You're amazing. And yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
having
much.
me. I love this format and what y'all are doing is fantastic.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Lindy.
Thank you. Means a lot. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys on the moon.
Bye.